The wild science of how Geronimo the alpaca captured our hearts. He spends his remaining days lolling around, oblivious to his fate. Faced with an upcoming death sentence, his only crime is that he has tested positive for an infectious disease. Meanwhile, a controversial government agency has a warrant for his destruction which could be executed at any moment. Pleas from his loving family are ignored as hundreds of thousands of well-wishers and activists rally to his defense. This is Geronimo the alpaca. It's the fluffy animal caught at the center of a lengthy legal battle, thrust across the headlines, capturing the imagination of Britain. The Department for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Defra, has ordered the animal to be put down after he twice tested positive for bovine tuberculosis. It's the same respiratory disease which means tens of thousands of badgers are culled every year in order to prevent its spread to cattle. To stay up to date with latest top stories, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking the button above this video. Yet this one alpaca has had his furry face splashed across tabloid front pages and has even sparked protests at Downing Street. Why? Blame our own biological drivers. If an animal looks like a baby we swoon, explains Robin Dunbar, anthropologist and emeritus professor of evolutionary psychology at the University of Oxford. Its features like big eyes and a high forehead, meaning the eyes are in the center of the face. You can see this in the design of teddy bear faces. They started out very bear-like, then became baby-like in shape over time. When we perceive something as cute, the pituitary gland, at the base of the brain, releases a bump of feel-good chemicals. Dopamine courses through the body. Oxytocin, crucial in establishing a strong parental bond, rushes through the bloodstream. Our pupils dilate from the surge of hormones, and we're suddenly enraptured by a warm, cuddly feeling. It's why Hollywood has turned cuteness into an art form. But be it Baby Yoda or an extra fluffy South American camelid, it's simply our nurturing response kicking in. It's the maternal instinct, says Dunbar. It's why women are much more attached to their pets than men. An animal's sociability deepens this effect, which is why so many of us feel a kinship with dogs and why we tune into a 24-hour live stream of 8-year-old Geronimo plodding around his farm near Bristol. Alpacas aren't always noted for good behavior, but they are intensely social, Dunbar says. The instinct to nurture varies from person to person. But it comes back to evolution. Ultimately, a maternal instinct is much more crucial than a paternal one, Dunbar explains. Human babies are born 12 months premature compared to babies of other apes. They have an utter lack of responsiveness over the first year and mothers have the huge burden of lactation. It means something is needed to ensure the mother keeps coming back to tend to the baby. In other words, if babies weren't cute they wouldn't survive. And Geronimo's features, big eyes, large head compared to body size, soft, fuzzy textures, provide similar visual cues. We see pictures of the alpaca and we have a biological urge to protect him like he's our own offspring. It's then that the rational, decision-making part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, becomes hijacked. Instead, the brain's emotional center, the amygdala, takes the steering wheel, directing our thoughts away from logic and towards desire. We want to save Geronimo. One of the most striking things is that I'd love for him to live, says Grace Lordan, associate professor in behavioral science at London School of Economics and author of Think Big. But if I take a step back and be objective about it, it shows us that narrative will always trump data. Even when we employ logic and rational thought, we're vulnerable to the subconscious and the mental shortcuts we take in order to interpret the world around us. For example, in behavioral science, there's the identifiable victim effect. Give him a face, a story, a family who will miss him dearly, and the narrative grabs people, Lordan explains. In the backdrop to the Geronimo story are the other animals, farmers and cattle who have suffered without having that sexy narrative driving their story.